lay, as though maps had been written into their very hulls. The galaxy's younger species watched in horror. The tales they had been told, the humans were extinct, reckless, primitive, were lies. What stood before them was not a fading ember, but a storm preserved. The Dominion threw fleets into the path of the awakening Terrans. They were annihilated. Every engagement ended the same way. Dominion firepower scattered harmlessly against armor meant to withstand extinction wars. In return, Terran weapons fired once, only once, and entire flotillas vanished. The most chilling detail was the silence. No taunts, no broadcasts, no declarations. Just codes, orders, maneuvers, ghosts moving in lockstep. Like an army that had never stopped marching. The breaking of the galaxy's confidence. Panic surged through council chambers across the stars. Allies of the Dominion began abandoning treaties. Entire civilizations demanded answers. Had humanity truly been dead, or had they been waiting? Archivists scoured records. Historians searched for clues. But the more they dug, the more a dreadful possibility arose. Humanity hadn't perished. They had planned. The collapse of their colonies may have been staged. The ruins seeded with sleepers. The silence deliberately cultivated until the right moment. The galaxy had mocked the graveyards. Now the graveyards were moving. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion faltered. The Empire's fleets retreated. Their propaganda machine sputtered. Because no lie could conceal what all eyes now saw, the Terran ghosts were real and they were winning. The legacy of waiting. The war raged for weeks, then months. Yet the Terran fleet never seemed to thin. For every ship destroyed, 2 more appeared from the dark, engines roaring back to life after centuries. No one knew the full scale. Were there thousands? Millions? Were they scattered across the galaxy in other graveyards, other silent watchposts? Rumors spread like wildfire. Of colossal shipyards buried under moons, of entire armadas hidden in gas giant atmospheres, of sleeper stations in intergalactic dark. And with each new sighting, a new truth settled like frost on the galaxy's throat. Humans did not die, they endured. They did not discard their weapons, they preserved them. They did not vanish, they waited. The silence was never an ending, it was preparation. Resolution, the fear that follows. By the time the first Dominion capital world burned, the galaxy understood. The Terrans had not returned by chance. They had not risen as ghosts to haunt old battlefields. They had awoken with purpose. Perhaps vengeance, perhaps defense, perhaps something far more calculating. But whatever the reason, one truth remained. Humanity's fleets were never abandoned. They were sleeping storms, kept in shadows until the time was right. The silence had broken. The stars now trembled beneath the weight of engines that should never have burned again. And across every council chamber, every broadcast network, every back alley whisper of the galaxy, a single dreadful thought spread like wildfire. If this is only their forgotten arsenal, what else waits in the dark? They said the Terrans were gone, not merely defeated, not merely scattered, but erased, consumed by time itself. Their homeworld was silent, their colonies ash, their signal bands quiet as the void. For centuries, the archives of the Orion Conquered recorded only stillness from that pale blue cradle once called Earth. Historians scoffed at the legends of Terran ferocity. To them, humanity was a forgotten page in the long annals of the stars. The galaxy had moved on, and silence filled the space where the human voice had once roared. In councils and courts across the sectors, their memory was a curiosity, an extinct branch of life, interesting only to scholars. The younger species of the galaxy had no fear of Terrans, only disdain for the myths that painted them as war makers who bent steel and fire into weapons unmatched. Time had washed away the dread their name once carried. Silence was their epitaph. At least, that was what the galaxy believed. Echoes in the dark. The first disturbance was dismissed as static, a ripple across the old comm bands, faint but patterned. A Zyathian deep space monitoring relay caught it, a pulse buried in the quiet. The analysts marked it as cosmic interference, yet the signal repeated. Weeks later, scavengers combing the dead systems on the galactic fringe reported strange flickers, stations long thought derelict lit with brief sparks, as though consoles stirred after eons of slumber. Energy surges pulsed from forgotten coordinates. The Sol system, Perseus Rim outposts, and a line of abandoned refueling stations stretching like bones through the void. The conquered strategists laughed. Human ruins, they said, decay playing tricks on sensors. Yet as more reports trickled in, the laughter quieted. Ghostly readings grew stronger, reactors warming, transponders flickering alive with codes that matched nothing in modern databases. And then came the whispers among traders. Ships drifting through asteroid belts, their hulls pitted with age yet unmarred by destruction. They bore insignias that no one alive could decipher. Some swore the vessels moved when watched, like predators feigning sleep. The graveyard shifts. The official investigation began reluctantly. A Corthan patrol fleet was dispatched to survey what was assumed to be another graveyard of ancient war. They charted the derelict hulls, silent and vast, their black silhouettes spanning the void like tombstones. But the silence was not still. First came the vibrations, deep tremors that ran through the patrol's sensors, a bass rumble like the heartbeat of the void. Then the stars themselves seemed to flicker as shapes shifted in formation. The patrol's scanners registered impossible patterns, ships aligning, hulls reorienting as if commanded by unseen hands. And then the codes began. Transmissions poured into the void, strings of Terran encryption older than any living species could decipher, yet still perfectly intact, as if preserved in amber. The graveyard spoke in the language of war. One by one, the ships lit their engines. Burnt-out husks became living fire. Plasma coils screamed back to life, thrusters igniting with ancient fury. The darkness fractured under the glow of reactors waking after centuries. The patrol fled, their reports frantic and broken. The graveyard was not a graveyard, it was a fleet. The silence breaks. The galaxy held its breath. Systems long written off as Terran ruins blazed with activity. From the asteroid forges of Ceres to the deep bunkers beneath Luna's dust, doors opened and machines rose. Starship after starship, vessels of impossible scale, emerged from their silent tombs. The codes that bound them were old, but their weapons shone with dreadful relevance. Every turret, every cannon, every launch bay came alive in disciplined unison. They did not drift like relics of history. They maneuvered like predators, their formations precise, their silence now replaced with roaring intent. The fleets moved as though no time had passed. Crews, whether living guardians in cryo or the descendants of forgotten colonies, answered calls no alien could hear. Some whispered of autonomous war corps, AIs bound to Terran command codes, waiting centuries for activation. Whatever their nature, the truth was undeniable. The ghosts of humanity were awake, and they knew their purpose. Silence broke, and with it the galaxy trembled. The return of the Ghost Armada. The first confrontation was a massacre. A coalition of conquered fleets rallied to contain what they thought was a malfunctioning ruin. They advanced with confidence, their warships gleaming with modern design. Then the Terran Ghost Armada moved. Their ships accelerated with impossible precision, inertia mastered by technologies forgotten by all but myth. Weaponry designed for brutal finality carved through the Conquered's proud flagships. Shields folded under kinetic barrages of tungsten rods launched at relativistic speeds. Plasma lances gutted cruisers in single strikes. Drones poured like locusts from Terran carriers, overwhelming with a discipline no modern fleet could replicate. It was not a battle, it was a demonstration. The conquered admirals screamed for retreat, but their signals fell into chaos as the Terran fleet advanced, not with bloodlust but with inevitability. Every maneuver was flawless, every strike preordained, as if the Armada had fought this war before. To the aliens it was terror made manifest. To the Terrans it was simply awakening. Legends no longer. The galaxy that once mocked humanity now spoke their name in fear. In markets, in war councils, in hidden corners of the void, one truth spread like wildfire. Humans do not die with time. They preserve themselves in silence, waiting for the day silence must end. Every race remembered the archives differently. Some spoke of the Terrans as engineers, some as conquerors, some as allies who once shielded fragile civilizations. But now they were ghosts, and ghosts are not bound by mercy. The galaxy wondered, if this was but one armada, forgotten in a single sector, how many others slumbered still? How many fleets lay in hidden vaults, deep in the gulfs between stars, waiting for the next moment to rise? The dread of what waits. In the aftermath, the conquered dared not pursue. Systems once thought barren were suddenly declared forbidden. Terran space was redrawn on star maps, not by human diplomats, but by the silent weight of their reawakened warships. The galaxy whispered new legends. They said the Terrans were storms disguised as ruins, silence waiting to roar. That their fleets did not age, only slumbered, and that their vengeance was patient as stone. Some prayed they were merely a remnant, a single forgotten arsenal finally spent. Others feared the deeper possibility, that humanity, scattered among the stars, had prepared 1,000 such ghost fleets, each waiting for the signal that silence was over. And in the quiet between the stars, the dread remained. What else lies waiting?